What should be done with the remaining detainees at Guantanamo? This was a campaign promise that candidate Obama made when he ran for president, and it is yet to be done. Well, what can be done? Well, I found, and I would recommend for you, a good source that I'm going to summarize along with statistics gathered from other sources. The source I found that I think best articulated this was by Jane Harmon and Jack Goldsmith, February 6th this year in Washington Post. They give a good summary of the issues involved. And what are the issues? Essentially, the issue is what to do with the 91 prisoners still at Guantanamo. There really are two options, main options. One is to keep them in Cuba. The other is to bring them to the United States. But both present issues of their own. But before we even get to that, there are about 34 left of those 91 that have been deemed to be no significant risk and therefore are cleared for release. That's a very difficult thing to know in advance what the recidivism possibilities might be, but Congress has put in place stringent guidelines that have to be met on an individual basis as to who can be released and who can't. We have gotten much better at it, but we probably have to get even better to make sure that they don't return to the battlefield. But the main question has to do with those that are left who are not cleared for release. And there you've got a host of issues. Guantanamo originally was set up to be beyond the reach of U.S. law as a prison in early 2002. Well, the Supreme Court not once but twice has said we can't do that. But we still have. And many of those some of them were tortured so that evidence is not admissible in court. Others, it's under battlefield conditions and the evidence simply didn't have time to gather it that would stand up in court. And the bulk of the prisoners that ever went to Guantanamo, 86% of them, came from bounties that were given to those who turned them in, which means they could have turned in their neighbor. Well, hopefully that's been taken care of. But we don't have sufficient evidence for the most part to hold them in detention, but we must. Obama has said that very clearly, that these are people that worked with the Taliban, worked with Al-Qaeda, and they're too high risk to let loose. Keeping them in Cuba, though, presents a great propaganda victory for those who support the terrorist group and the Muslim world and others, because it shows we're not living by the rule of law. George W. Bush himself said that, and so has Obama. Bringing him to the United States, Congress has pointed out that the president has yet to present a specific plan, and they're right. The problem is, well, if there is any way to bring them to the United States, it would be in federal maximum security prisons for the remainder of possibly their lives, or until the conflict is over, whichever comes first. But the war on terrorism in the Middle East is not going to end anytime soon. So what to do? The article strongly suggests that the least bad option is to pass a law that specifies under what conditions they should be held, and that would stand up over judicial review for that time period. So we would need a specific legislation for those particular prisoners for their detention. So if there's any way out, as the article says, that's the least bad option, and I think they're right.